Okay, good morning. So, oh, that's me in the camera. So, what I'm trying to do is on last Friday's live stream, I said I was going to, show you how I do this. And it's not really hard. So, I just want to do a little live deal and show you how I make these little scale chalkboards. These are just the three that I've made so far for my current diorama. It's a World War I trench diorama. And this one is centered on Captain William Livens, a British officer who invented the Livens large gallery flamethrower, flame projector. Sorry. And so I wanted to show something like a chemical computations and just work that you would do on a chalkboard. And so what I did was I started out with, and let's move these out and I'll show you the supplies that I used. I started out with this. This is 1/32 0.8 millimeter birch plywood. And I'm sorry, I tore that off because I was going to use it. And I'm like, wait, I need to show people this. And it's real thin. It's a little curvy like this, but when you start working with it, it kind of flattens out. So that's what I like to use. That's what I have used. This is the spray paint that I used on it, and I just use black paint primer. Hey, Scott's here. Wow, Scott, thanks very much for coming on. This was just kind of jumping in the middle of this thing so I could show what I was going to show last Friday because I kind of forgot. So thanks very much for coming on, Scott. That's really cool. So anyway, this is the paint that I used, and they have chalkboard paint, and I think it would look fine. But the chalkboard paint I've seen is like a green color, and I wanted slate, and I didn't have any, but I did have some of this flat black. So that's what I used. So all I did was I took that little 1/32 thick plywood, birch plywood, and I spray painted it, and just both sides because I wanted kind of like a test side. And then I took some 320 wet dry sandpaper, and I don't want to smooth it out. I want, some of this. I want some of the texture that's on here to stay there so it can grab the chalk. Right? I mean, it doesn't want to be completely smooth. Hey, John, thanks very much for coming on. This was kind of impromptu, like I was saying to Scott earlier, because I forgot to do this on the live stream. So that's what I'm doing. So I want to take a little bit of 320. Now this one is like a test piece that I did. So I'm just going to go on this side, and I'm just going to take a little bit of this 320 sandpaper, and I'm not even pressing down. I just want to kind of go over it, and I'm just knocking off like any kind of burr or thing from the wood that might pop up from spray painting it, because that'll happen. Sometimes the wood will fray a little bit under your paint. So, it doesn't even hardly take anything off, but it knocks that stuff down. Hey, Raiders Bastion Malabo Queerbeat is here. And I hope I said that right. I was just trying to read it off. But hello, thanks very much for coming on. So I have painted this thin birch plywood. I have sanded it real quick. And now I'm just going to start working with it. Now, the thing that I did was I used real chalk. And real chalk is just to get the look of some things written on there previously, and then it's been erased. I'm not going to use the pure chalk for the final. I'm going to use paint for that. So I just want to go in here and I just did stuff like this. I'm not really pressing down. I just want to go very lightly, just here and there, and I'm not really even making anything discernible. I'm just trying to get something on there, so it looks like some things have happened, maybe even a drawing. They've worked on some stuff, and again, I'm keeping it very light, stuff like that. And then once I've got a little bit of that on there, I'm just going to take my thumb. You can use a paper towel, but I think it might take too much off. Take my thumb or my finger and just kind of do that. And it gives you a really nice erased look. So you have some background, a little bit of depth to what you're going to have on there. I could use a little bit more. So I'm just going to come back in here and whatever you want to do on yours, I'm trying to do like I'm thinking of like a scientist or something like that. They're doing equations and things like that. So this is the kind of thing I want in the background. here. So a little bit more, and then I knock it off. So then the next thing I do is I am going to use a 5/0 brush. So pretty small brush. And I'm using a little XF20 Tamiya thinner. And this is XF2. And this is flat white. I want this because I'm used to using it. And I think it's gonna bond really well to the surface. And that's one of the things that I really like about a lacquer paint is it sticks really well. Sometimes these acrylics don't stick as well, especially the kind of stuff that I do. I might have put some oils on there with my finger, but I really like the way it comes out. So I'm going to continue with that. And then I'll take a little bit of that thinner. And I don't want a lot of thinner on my brush. I just want the paint thinned out a little bit. I got a little clump on there. And I'm just going to go in and paint. So the symbols that I did were basically like chemistry symbols. And so that's what I'm going to do. Now, when I was doing this, it's light, but then once I get the things on here that I want on here, then I'm going to go over it again. And I found that on this example, I had some things that were a little bit lighter in the middle, and then some things I really wanted to stand out. And just simply going over them again, just like you think you would, makes a big difference. But I also wanted some things that were a little bit whiter, you know, like there's been a lot of activity, and some things that were like not quite so much, like these circles while I'm circling something to kind of show something. I mean it to be quick. So I don't want everything to be even. If you look at a chalkboard, there's different things all over it. And so that's what I'm trying to simulate. So I'm just going to keep going in here. And then for the formulas, I'm just going to be painting right over the other stuff. I'm just going really super light. Now, I'm kind of making little squiggly marks and trying to make individual symbols and things like that. And one of the things that I wondered about when I was doing this is, well, how big do the letters need to be in scale? Well, I just took my figure and that's it. I just kind of eyeballed it. And I said, yeah, that looks pretty good. That's the kind of size that I want for the writing. As a matter of fact, I thought this might be a little bit small on here, but being a scientist and he's trying to figure some things out, I figured that was okay. So yeah, I just kind of used my figure to see the scale, make sure that it was good. I liked it. And then once I was done, you know, the process, I got everything on here. I said, well, look, I want to represent these so they look like a real chalkboard. And so finishing it off, I think, is really important. And because it's like a woodworking project at that point, I said I want to make sure that it looks like it was built like a woodworker would build, right? So the first thing to think about is when you're doing your corners, and it's kind of hard to see here. I'm going to go to my other camera and see if it's a little bit easier to see. Maybe not. I don't know. It's a little dark, it seems. I'm going to go back. Well, I think you can see. What I'm showing here is when I'm doing my corners, it's really simple if you haven't done a lot of woodworking to just take your wood and stack it like that, you know, and that would be fine in a lot of cases. But on something like this, I think it's really important to do a 45-degree angle on your corner. And luckily, on most cutting mats, we've got that 45-degree angle printed right on the cutting mat. So what I do, and I'm going to exaggerate this to show you a little bit, because I've got another knife that I'm not actually going to cut with. I just want to use this to demonstrate a point. So this is like the very large you know, X-Acto knife blade you can get. And what I do is when I line this up, I want to line up to get the best angle. I want to line up on the furthest parts that I can. Let's go to the other camera. I think it's a little bit clearer here. So what I want to do is when I'm lining something up, I don't want to line it up where I can see it, which is right here, because that looks pretty close to lined up. But then when I look out here, you can see it's not lined up. So in general, when I'm trying to line something up, I want to line up at the furthest points, and that's going to give me the most level way of lining something up. So I'm looking here and I'm looking here. So now on this end, what I'm doing is I'm crossing that 45-degree line. And again, as an exaggeration, to just show you, I'm going to line up here and here. I'm going to place it here where I'm going to cut, you know, the knife right in the middle. But then I'm not going to look there when I cut. I'm going to look here and make sure that these two lines or these 2 points are lined up. And that'll give me the best 45-degree angle. So now with the real knife, I'm doing the same thing. That's, again, for demonstration purposes. I'm lining up on the heel and the tip of the knife on that line. And then I just kind of go down and forward, and that cuts it really nice. And I get a 45-degree angle. Now, by doing that on both sides, again, I'm going to line up here and here on the piece of wood. Once that's lined up, I'm going to hold here. I'm going to take the heel and the tip. I'm going to line that up as far as I can on that line to get the best angle. And then I'm just going to kind of push down and forward. And it cuts really clean. Now, what you've done is you've created a very nice 45-degree angle cut corner. And that's what you would have either on a picture frame or a door frame or anything like that. You're going to have that kind of corner, and it's just going to finish it up a lot better. You know, it's just going to look a little bit cleaner. So once I've cut those, they're just super glued right to the surface. Okay, super glued right to the surface. And I typically do that by lining it up on the chalkboard, okay, on the edges. And again, to line it up, the best way to do it is line up this edge and this edge. We're going to say that's cut, you know, these sides. And then I'm gluing it down. Once that's glued down, then I move to the next piece and bring it up here. I line it up at that side and that side. If you try to do it at the same time and doing all this wackiness, it'll kind of mess with you, you know, and it's really not necessary. So just go ahead and do one of these at a time. Now, to dress it up a little bit more, after I have put my border on there, like on this little one, I made like a standing, so there it's standing, but you can't see it. So here is like a standing chalkboard that, you know, someone would write on. What I did after I put the border is then I did take some more wood and I put on the outside, and that just increases it a little bit, gives it a little bit more of a dressing up. And here it's not really appropriate, I don't think, but here it looks right. You know, that looks like the way you would do it. Okay. So that's it. That's for my chalkboard. Oh, the sides of these I just turned on my little lathe, and then I made little legs. I wanted it to sit closer to the wall, and so I knocked that off. So that's the only reason that is. But yeah, it just makes it look like a standing chalkboard. I did this on my lathe. You can, it's harder, but it's certainly possible, and I've done it. You can do it if you have a drill press or even just a hand drill. You can shape things like this. Like I say, it's not as nice as a lathe, but it can be done. So anyway, that's it. I just wanted to show you that. I really had a fun time making these. It's super simple. You don't need chalkboard paint. You can just use the black, flat black paint, and it'll look more like slate. And that's it. So thanks very much. If you have any questions, please ask. But I just wanted to go ahead and do something real quick and informative to show you how I do it. So thanks very much, everybody. Hope you're having a great day, and we'll see you next time.